We've got some courtroom drama, and this one doesn't even include the NCAA. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, we got the out-of-conference baseball schedule wrapping up a weekend series anyways. We'll get to that. Southern Miss beats JMU. I'm not sure how, except a guy named Weeks. And it's a little inside baseball information. We also have, by the way, we'll just talk about it a little bit. How about South Alabama women's hoops? Down their three leading scorers, they beat Texas State anyways. They scored more in the third quarter than they did in the first half. Unbelievable. So trying to figure out what today's episode was going to be about, and we have JMU and Southern Miss. We'll talk about that. We got the baseball to preview, maybe South Alabama women's hoops. There's plenty to discuss. And then we get into the car on the way home, scroll the timeline, and we have La Tech suing Conference USA. Backtrack a little bit. So a couple of weeks ago, I reached out to the guys up north, Matt Bellinson, who is La Tech's beat writer for the Ruston Leader, and our guy, Sean Fox, Sports Talk 97.7. Hope you're feeling better, Foxy. What's going on? Haven't heard anything. Seems awfully quiet. And they both said, moving forward, don't have anything to think otherwise. They're just negotiating. And basically what they're negotiating is, technically, La Tech didn't give, they were supposed to be giving a Conference USA a heads up by June 30th, I believe, of last year. They didn't do it until the middle of July, as if that's the biggest of all deals. But whatever. So in the meantime, Conference USA has been suing La Tech because they want more money. They think La Tech was really going to go to the Sun Belt way before they actually decided, which they probably were, because remember, this all started getting the ball rolling in June when, in the middle of Coastal Carolina's first College World Series game, Pete Thamel, among others, announces Texas State is officially leaving. The Sun Belt is interested in La Tech. All right. He doesn't get those things out of thin air. All right. And so someone was telling him that. So now you got to wait for the process. Texas State has to officially leave before the Sun Belt can engage into Louisiana Tech. That's what happens. It goes past when the deadline is supposed to be to get out for that 26 season. Remember, they're trying to play football. I mean, it's March, April, May, June, July, August. It's in 6 months. I really thought this was going to be done towards the end of last year, and it's not. Now the script has been flipped. Instead of Conference USA suing Louisiana Tech is suing Conference USA. And it was Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports who tweeted it out, but it is in the Lincoln Parish Journal because, of course, and Malcolm Butler wrote it. Not that Malcolm Butler, I presume, but another Malcolm Butler. The Board of Supervisors for University of Louisiana System filed a lawsuit late Wednesday on behalf of Louisiana Tech University against Conference USA. The 102-page docket was a file with the 3rd Judicial District Court in Lincoln Parish as a petition for temporary, preliminary, and permanent injunctive relief and declaratory relief. So they want to be part of the Sun Belt immediately. Although that seems to be temporary, preliminary, and permanent. Those things seem to be in conflict with each other. Nonetheless, it's coming down to the dates, all right? When Louisiana Tech accepted the Sun Belt Conference's invitation, it was July 14th, 2025. The university notified Conference USA that it would make the move on July 1st, 2026. However, Conference USA corresponded 3 days later, attempting to change the effective date of departure, citing certain provisions in CUSA bylaws. All right. The two sides actually met at the end of July, where Tech officials notified league officials of its decision to leave, citing substantial and immediate travel our savings to be achieved for student athletes by moving to a regional conference. We all know why they wanted to make the move. The Sun Belt is actually better now than Conference USA, and it's closer. It is closer. And so that's where we are today. According to the lawsuit, Tech declined to make an offer at the in-person meeting, but agreed to provide a subsequent written offer. The conference has accepted financial consideration for prior members who exited the conference that provided significantly fewer days' notice than Tech, with the conference's prior dealings of these former members. Tech had every reason to believe that good faith financial discussions would proceed. Tech provided a financial offer on August 1st, which is pretty quick, as requested in that in-person meeting, again, informing the league that it would be departing July 1st of the following year. According to the lawsuit, Tech further expressed its desire to satisfy the financial obligations the conference pursuant to the exit. Okay. Well, this was not any good for Conference USA because they want more money. They're trying to do all this Freedom of Information Act. And they're trying to milk La Tech for more money because they know La Tech is back against the wall. They're trying to get out, so they have a little leverage. Well, apparently they've used that leverage up, at least for right now, because La Tech and the University of Louisiana school system, university system, said, enough. We're going to take you to court and see where we get with that. Because, again, all in the last few weeks when I reached out to Fox and Bellinson, you saw people, and I saw Craig Stevenson, beat writer for South Alabama, mention it on Twitter, that the schedule for the Sun Belt usually comes out March 1st, and it wasn't coming out. It did not come out. People reached out to me, where is the schedule? And I said, well, you got Conference USA and Louisiana Tech fighting. And they're like, well, what's that about? And you do one of those cash money memes or gifts, I guess the case may be. And so that's where we are. All right. So again, we got less than 6 months before the college football season kicks off. And La Tech is not any closer, it appears, to being in the Sun Belt. And at the same time, Conference USA released a schedule. They released La Tech's schedule for Conference USA. So they know who the out-of-conference teams are. That's usually announced well in advance, but they gave them a conference schedule. So it's getting to the next level. There is certainly a level of pettiness here. I mean, shocking. Although I'm not sure it reaches to the level of the NCAA is suing Ole Miss for Trinidad Chambliss's eligibility. I mean, come on, what are we doing? But nonetheless, it's close to that. Because everybody just thinks this is going to happen, and you just, squeeze a little bit more money. Okay, we were a little bit late telling you. Okay, but no, it's now again March, and again these things happen fast. All right, the baseball season just started, and yet by this weekend we're a month into it. Right, that out of conference schedule on the weekends is done this week. Boom. Sunbelt starts next weekend. So it moves fast, right? We're going to blink. It's going to be April, and then it's going to be May. And all of a sudden, we're looking at RPI now, but all of a sudden we're looking at, national and regional hosts. And, now all of a sudden it's going to be the NCAA tournament. And then we're in summer break. And then we got media days. Like La Tech is officially going to join in July 1st, and about 4 weeks later, they're going to media days. It's the last week of July. So things are going to move fast, but that's where we are. And, really good job, again, by Malcolm Butler of the Lincoln Parish Journal. That's a good job finding that lawsuit. So we'll see where it is, but we absolutely have some courtroom drama. I'm not sure if this says when we're going to get something from the judge. Let me see at the end here. I don't believe it has that in there. They're going over the whole dealings with La Tech and Conference USA kind of back and forth. All right. Maybe I'll put this in the show notes, but it's the LincolnParishJournal.com. All right. So we'll see if we get some sort of decision. I mean, maybe the judge does give something pretty quickly, but then you're going to bet that Conference USA is going to appeal. So we'll see where we go from there. Okay. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. Somehow Southern Miss advances. I watched the game. I still don't know, other than Taliq Weeks. All right. They beat JMU, but wait till you hear these statistics don't match up. We'll do that right after I tell you about FanDuel and TurboTax. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now, FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your need. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. And then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the payout potential. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. And TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting with a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, before we get on to Southern Miss and JMU, let me remind you your chance to join the Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Sunbelt your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live Sunbelt sports all day, every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Sunbelt with no interruptions, members only, all for just $5 a month, or even better, $50 a year. Go to LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Okay. All right. So we do have JMU who took down the Cajuns on Wednesday. I mean, you go on vacation, you don't get weekends off. You can never keep track of the days. All right. And so that was an oddball game because either JMU was up by like 12 or the Cajuns made a run and wouldn't go away. They eventually won it by 15 points. Okay. I thought JMU was going to take down Southern Miss. Southern Miss finished up their last ball game was outstanding. They played South Alabama as tough as anybody in the Sun Belt played South Alabama this year, and that was in Mobile. And so JMU had early control of this ball game. I'd gotten home from work right as the ball game was tipping off and felt like JMU was in control, and then they weren't. Southern Miss led by 2 at half, 35-33. Southern Miss wins this ball game 86-80, and that score is much closer than the game was because it was like a 12-point game very late. All right. But some of these statistics just don't match up. JMU shot 52%. Southern Miss shot 45%. Field goals were 3-point field goals. Each team made 4. The difference, I guess, is at the free throw line. There's the big difference. Southern Miss was 28 of 34. JMU 16 of 23. Huge difference in that case. JMU had 23 fouls called. Southern Miss had 18. That's not that big of a difference, but they made, in fact, Southern Miss made more free throws than JMU attempted. There is the big difference in the ball game because rebounding is about the same, 36-32. That's not a huge advantage one way or the other. Second chance points were about even. JMU had much more bench points and a few more points in the paint. But again, very odd ball game that, again, Southern Miss, again, that 6-point spread is not indicative. That's a big word on a Friday morning. Indicative of this game not being very close in the second half. With, a minute 11 to go, it was 81-69 Southern Miss. So they're not going to lose a 12-point lead late like that. In fact, with 45 seconds left to go, it was 83-71. And then they start making some threes, and you start missing some free throws. And a 12-point game with 45 seconds left to go is a 6-point game at the end. So no harm, no foul there for Southern Miss. In terms of the stats, and it was a good, it's a good job by Southern Miss in this one. Taliq Weeks, 31 points. Again, those 13 out of 15 free throws. There's your ball game. And he played all 40 minutes. All right. Again, for those who don't know, and I haven't mentioned it lately or much at all, I was a 13th man on a 12-man JV basketball team. But the last thing we all did was, after we practiced and after we ran sprints, we'd shoot free throws. Right? Was in the middle of practice. You got to shoot the free throws at the end of the game when you're tired. And so for him to make 13 out of 15 free throws, playing all 40 minutes, really impressive. All right. Tavares had 17 and Bennett had 11. All right. Not the greatest of all games, 4 out of 10, but he was 3 out of 3 from the free throw line. Pretty good. For JMU, Bradley Douglas had 18 points. Cliff Davis had 19 points, and Newhoff had 11. All right. But again, just odd statistics. And the biggest difference was the free throw line as Southern Miss takes down JMU 86-80. All right. We're not waiting, unfortunately, for the Arkansas State-Georgia Southern game, which has tipped off. But moving forward, let's see what we got here. So you do have Southern Miss is going to take on Texas State. And this will be very interesting because Texas State, 5th seed, is a dominant team at home. Lost one time. That's it. I think they beat Troy at home. I know I got to look. All right. I know they beat South Alabama at home, but they've lost one time at home all season. Not such a great team on the road. I know this is a neutral court, and during the week, there's just not a whole lot of fans in Pensacola. What can you do? All right. But it'll be interesting to see. So far, we have not had a situation where, at least on the men's side, where someone who's played and knocked off a team that had not played, right? The Cajuns had played, and JMU knocks them off, right? ODU had played, Georgia Southern knocks them off, all right? So we're still, there's been no upsets, I guess is the easier way of saying that, all right? So we'll see what happens moving forward. You do have, again, Arkansas State and Georgia Southern. The winner of that game gets South Alabama, all right? So we'll see where that goes moving forward. Quickly, we do have to give props to the Lady Jaguars. What a great ball game, defeating Texas State 69-59, trailing 29 to 24 at half. As you know, men's college basketball is the only basketball that doesn't have quarters. International has quarters. Women's has quarters. High school sports has quarters. Women's NCAA basketball has quarters. The pros have quarters. The only ones who doesn't have quarter are the guys in the NCAA. It's crazy. So I'm not used to that. But the women here come out in the second half and totally dominate in the third quarter. They'd scored 24 points in the first half. They scored 25 in the third quarter. That is insanity. They hung on as Texas State made a push and closed the gap, but South Alabama pulled away at the end, winning 69-59. And how about Tamara Ortiz, a season-high 22 points. She is 12 a game. She scored a season-high 22 in this ball game as they will advance. Let me see if we can find quickly who they are taking on. Probably should have done that. They get Marshall. I didn't know that. All right. They get Marshall Friday at 11:30. So that is Central Time. So it'll be 12:30 Eastern Time. All right. All right. And I did know that. I tweeted that out. All right. So congratulations to South Alabama. What are they calling it? Stairway to 7. They're halfway home. They're halfway home. They have won 3 ball games, and they'll have a few more to go. See if they can do it. This would be their 4th game in 4 days. Having said that, the 3 starters, their 3 leading scorers who were suspended, they got the game off. They're all coming back today. They're going to play today. So these girls are going to be rested, at least some of them. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. All right. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, final weekend of out-of-conference baseball weekend series. It's not as great as matchups as there have been, although there are 3 big series. Some will fill me in on ones that I don't think are big as these. But we do have South Alabama's got a big series, Cajuns have a big series, and Coastal Carolina has a big series. All right, we'll talk about that after I tell you about Indeed and 5-Hour Energy. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. Since I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast, Locked on Sunbelt. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And 5-Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There is something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number 1 pick for the 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. All right, because you guys know I like the consistency. They always are there. They're big time. I either go grape or berry. And let me tell you, after having not worked for a week and being on my feet all day, come midday, I needed a 5-Hour Energy, and it came through for me in the clutch. If I'm going to take a flyer on somebody, it's going to be that sour apple, because I'm always in favor of a good sour apple. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-Hour Energy shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked on Sunbelt. Your team every day. I couldn't tell the difference between the microphone and my drink. I was going to pick up the microphone and take a drink. All right. So baseball-wise, it was another pretty good week. Southern Miss taking down Mississippi State, tripped up a little against the Nichols. We get it. Arkansas State beat La Tech twice. And the Cajuns beat LSU. That's good stuff. All right. So if we want to go over the RPI right now in the conference, it's Southern Miss is still number 1 in the RPI, despite tripping up against Nichols. All right. So Southern Miss is number 1. Says the Cajuns are 14. Because I thought I saw that they were 15. No, they were 14. All right. They've moved. Someone must have played on Thursday afternoon, because when I got home, they were 15. All right, no better, but they're still right where they were. They dropped to 17 for not playing, and then they went up to 14 after beating LSU. You do have Arkansas State is 42. How about that? They're a top 50 team. Georgia State is 87. Amazing. All right. Texas State, 77. Troy, having a really tough schedule, but only 5-7. They're 89. All right. That's outstanding. South Alabama, 10-3. They're 111. We'll see if they have a chance to move up with their La Tech series. Even like ULM, 191, although they've lost a couple. They're 80. They're 8-7. So we'll see what it is. This is the final weekend before we kick off conference play. And again, it's going to be a good one. I had the schedule here. So again, there's only a couple of highlighted series that we need to go over. We're going to tell you who everybody's playing. But the big ones, and please fill me in if I am overlooking somebody. The big ones are, East Carolina is at Coastal Carolina. All right, so that's a rematch, if you will, of the regional final. Okay, so that's a nice series. We'll see if Coastal Carolina can, straighten out the ship, because they just have not had a good season, and that's mostly due to injuries. Okay, so that is a huge series. You do have the Cajuns going to Dallas Baptist. I did see the voice of the Cajuns, Jay Walker, try to tell people that the DBU series is bigger than the LSU game. The only reason it's bigger is because it's 3 games. Don't try to, get that. Come on. The LSU game is bigger. All right. It just is. The LSU, if they turn things around a little bit, which everybody thinks they will, but maybe they won't. But if they do, they're going to have a top 20 RPI, and the Cajuns get the benefit, as we talked about that. I'm not sure if Dallas Baptist is going to have that. All right. We'll see. So it's only bigger because there's 3 games instead of 1. But don't let anybody kid you. That LSU game was huge, and they played it in front of 5,700. Most of them were Cajuns fans, and so they got to see what they wanted. And then the other one is Louisiana Tech taking on South Alabama. Seems like the guys over at Sunbelt Syndicate not a big fans of South Alabama. And maybe they haven't played anybody yet. Is that a thing? They played South Carolina Upstate. They beat Nichols. They did take 2 out of 3 from the College of Charleston. They did beat Southeastern, got hammered by Tulane, and then they did take 3 from West Georgia. They ruled UAB. All right, so maybe they haven't quite played anybody. Let's see what those RPI ranks are overall. South Carolina Upstate 118, Nichols 142, Charleston 171, Southeastern 114, Tulane 203, West Georgia is 299. UAB is 13. All right, so that's nice. Okay. Louisiana Tech, which I think was in the 20s a minute ago, is 54. We'll see. All right. Because I think Louisiana Tech, that's why I picked Southern Miss to win the series. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I picked them to sweep it, because sweeping is hard in baseball, and it was on the road. But Southern Miss had been battle-tested. I guess you could say Louisiana Tech is battle-tested because they played Southern Miss. They didn't beat them, but they played them. So we'll see what happens. All right. It seems to be going in the wrong direction for Louisiana Tech. But South Alabama's offense is really good, and their weekend pitching has been very, very good. So we'll see what happens there. Elsewhere, so those are the 3 big series, right? East Carolina, Coastal Carolina, Cajuns at DBU, and South Alabama hosting La Tech. Elsewhere, that number 1 ranked squad in RPI, Southern Miss hosting North Alabama. Arkansas State is on the road to Oral Roberts. ULM taking on former Sunbelt foe, UT Arlington. Troy hosting Maryland. Maryland getting a lot of Sunbelt play this year. Texas State hosting future Pac-12 2.0 opponent Washington State. Georgia Southern taking on Tennessee Tech. Marshall hosting St. Bonaventure. Remember, I'm going to see Marshall next weekend. Supposed to be warm or maybe wet in the future, so we'll see what happens. But they're playing 3 o'clock on Tuesday, and 11 a.m. on Wednesday. I happen to have those days off. I didn't even have to ask them off. You know, it's going to be a good year when those things like that happen. And then, let's see, Charleston Southern is at Georgia State. JMU hosting East Tennessee State. App State is on the road to Presbyterian. And Old Dominion is hosting a UConn. So we'll see how it goes this week. And, of course, we will talk, or this weekend. Of course, there is some midweek games. I think the Cajuns have a 5-game week, is what I thought I heard on TV. But, I mean, you have some you got some nice series. App State is hosting Coastal. Southern Miss is at Arkansas State, and the Cajuns hosting South Alabama. That is a way to kick off the opening weekend of the conference play. That is going to be outstanding. All right. Meanwhile, we will find out what happens in basketball before we get to that part and who will be the conference champion. And so far, there's been many more upsets in the women's, mostly South Alabama taking care of that, than there has been in the men's up until this point. Not going to ruin the score of Arkansas State, Georgia. We just haven't seen any of that as we're going to bed. All right. We will report on the Arkansas State Georgia Southern ball game in the morning. So I do apologize, but it is what it is. Thank you for tuning in. We are doing a little bit more social media, trying to get it on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. All right. Taking advice from some of the guys who and ladies who do this extremely well. So hopefully it will continue to grow because we enjoy doing it. And we're trying to get to that 3,000 mark on the subscriber base. So it would be a big help if we could show the powers to be that the podcast is growing. So thank you so much. Looking forward to the basketball this weekend. Looking forward to the baseball this weekend. And we'll be following, see if South Alabama's run continues into the weekend. They do get Marshall. The Lady Jaguars do get Marshall. 12:30 Eastern time, 11:30 Central time on Friday. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Please be safe, and we'll talk to you again on Monday. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Please have a great weekend, and again, we'll talk to you again soon.